because this just refers to money. And as all the testimony shows here today, INA is much more than money. So when we're talking about what is the Army, if it is allowed to keep state lands going to provide us compensation, we're not just talking about money, we're talking about other community benefits that must be included when we're talking about retention of land. So for all these reasons, the document is sufficient, and we urge the board, as it did with Ahupua, to reject this EIS. Mahalo.
Thank you very much.
I don't have anything.
Thank you very much. Noilan, Kawila?
Aloha Chair Chang and members of the Board of Land and Natural Resources. My name is Kili Kawailoa-Poamoho. Ka'ava is my aina hanai, and Kahuku is my aina hanau. I strongly urge you to reject the Army's legally deficient final environmental impact statement (FEIS) for the retention of lands on Oahu. Many of the same concerns the board raised in its rejection of the Pohaku law FEIS, including the lack of cultural and biological surveys, inadequate cultural consultation, and unaddressed land use compliance issues are found again in this document. This FEIS also fails to address stream impacts, potential groundwater contamination, necessary land remediation plans. Accepting this FEIS would signal that our environmental laws, the public trust, and Native Hawaiian rights can be disregarded with no consequence. Please uphold your trust responsibilities, the mission of your department, the laws that protect our aina and our future. Reject the FEIS. Another thing I wanted to say is that there is a study that was done of Keaka Bay, and at Keaka Bay, there was contaminants that was dumped in Keaka Bay from the streams, like Po'omoho stream, the other streams that meet together. And in this study, in Keaka Bay watershed-based plan, it said that one of the contributors of this pollution was indeed the U.S. Army and the Navy. So they need to be accountable. They need to clean up there's many jobs they can do, which is cleaning up the ordinances, the chemicals, the opala, because I want to see the o'opu, our poor native freshwater fish that cannot thrive in these streams. So mina, aue, so kaumaha. And I would like to see the o'opu, the different native o'opu and their native fish there. Mahalo.
Thank you very much, Karina.
Aloha Chair, members of the board. My name is Noilan Kalipi, and I'm testifying in my personal capacity. None of my views do not represent the Department of Defense or the military components. For nearly 2 decades, I have worked on Native Hawaiian issues and collaborated with cultural practitioners on projects and policy efforts that integrate indigenous knowledge with modern innovation. I believe in the value of ancestral science, in restoring ecosystems, and in rebuilding trust through inclusive processes. I understand the depth of emotion and concern surrounding the EIS. Opposition is rooted not only in recent experiences, but in generations of harm and exclusion. Acknowledging the history is essential, and it must also lead to a shared responsibility for what comes next. As a Native Hawaiian veteran who has over 3 years on active duty in the U.S. JI Corps, Army JI Corps, I know firsthand the importance of the military training to ensure our service members, whether active duty or Hawaii National Guard, are ready to respond at a moment's notice. The Army's preferred alternative to retain only 450 acres is a decision that marks the first time since statehood that a military branch has voluntarily reduced its footprint to this extent on Oahu. This is happening at a time of increased geopolitical tension in the Indo-Pacific region. It is not just symbolic, it is a meaningful shift. People often say that actions speak louder than words, and this is one such action. The FEIS meets the criteria of HEPA, and this is the fastest way for discussions to begin about cleanup, about return. For those who seek full restoration on the complete removal of the military presence, this step may feel insufficient, but it opens the door to continued dialogue and the possibility of a different future. Your decision today can shape a future rooted both in accountability and possibility. By approving the EIS, you allow the process to move forward, not in blind acceptance, but in continued engagement, scrutiny, and shared kuleana. Mahalo.
Thank you very much, Maka. Kaiko and Makanoa.
Kalawai, if I could just turn my chair a little bit because I don't want to put my back against it.
Sure.
And I'll put it back after I'm done.
Okay, thank you very much. I know this is a very oddly, not the best way for a public witness.
Aloha, Chair and members of the board. My name is Kaipo Perez, and I am part of the Hawaii Coordination Cell and serve as an advisor to the DoD on land use and strategic engagement. But more importantly, I'm also here as someone born and raised in Hawaii, with over a decade of personal and professional experience dedicated to the care and protection of our natural and cultural resources. To be abundantly clear, I'm here providing testimony in my individual capacity, advice on behalf of the DoD or answer. I offer this testimony with aloha for the land, for the place we call home. This process is a reflection of something we hold dear in Hawaii, the ability to sit in difficult conversations, to share different perspectives, and to move forward with integrity. I mahalo all those who've spoken from their hearts, especially those who have shared painful truths and long-held frustrations. Your voices matter, and I hear you. The Army's presence in Hawaii has undeniably caused harm. There have been broken promises, environmental impacts, and deep cultural wounds that continue to affect families and communities till this day. These concerns should never be dismissed, and they must remain central in our collective path moving forward. At the same time, it is important to acknowledge that the Army, like all of us, is still learning. There are chapters they can be proud of and others that serve as hard lessons. This is no different than any institution trying to do better. I've had the privilege to work closely with many in the Army who carry their responsibility with genuine care and aloha. I've witnessed firsthand their efforts to protect endangered species, steward cultural sites, and build relationships rooted in trust. Is it perfect? No. But the direction is meaningful and ongoing. The FEIS, while not perfect, represents meaningful progress. And I want to be clear, no EIS is perfect. There can always be improved. But what it does offer is a stronger, more transparent path forward. It acknowledges environment and cultural impacts and lays out real enforceable mechanisms that empower the state to require cleanup, uphold cultural access, and mandate long-term stewardship. We do not need to choose between aloha aina and security. We can and must expect both. We can hold the Army accountable while working together to ensure that our lands are protected, our stories honored, our people, especially the next generation, are prepared to defend what matters most. With sincere and humility, I urge the board to accept the FEIS not as an endorsement of the past, but as a commitment to a better future, one where we can continue to listen, to learn, and to lead with aloha. Mahalo for your time and thoughtful consideration.
Thank you very much. Makanoa?
Aloha mai kako o Makanoa ko'uino. My name is Makanoa, and I strongly oppose the U.S. Army's final environmental impact statement for land retention. Let's be clear that the Hawaiian Kingdom is an independent nation. The U.S. has no right to these lands to begin with. Their presence here is part of a prolonged illegal occupation, and this board has a responsibility to acknowledge the truth and act accordingly. The definition for stewardship is the careful and responsible management of something entrusted to one's care, especially in terms of the environment, cultural heritage, and resources. The lands in question are sacred. They're ecologically rich in homes to endangered species, iwi kupuna, ancient agricultural systems, and important cultural sites. The Army's operations have caused wildfires, contamination, restricted access, and desecration. That does not sound like stewardship to me. The Army claims to care for these lands, but you can't bomb land and call it caring. You cannot exercise peace while occupying stolen land. That is not stewardship, it's exploitation. International law is clear. There are Hague regulations and the 4th Geneva Convention that prohibits the seizure, destruction, and militarization of occupied lands. Hawaii was never legally annexed, and I know that DLNR and BLNR are required to follow both the Hawaii Kingdom laws as well as the state laws. And most of the state laws are actually the Kingdom laws to begin with. And because there's no treaty of cession that exists, the use of these lands is not just unjust, but it's unlawful. This is a moment to do something that is pono. The Army has already taken too much from all of us, and they've never been good partners in preservation. They do their best, but they're agents of destruction, and I urge you to reject this final EIS, deny them land retention. We need demilitarization and not deeper entrenchment. We need return, restoration, and respect, not continued occupation disguised as stewardship.
Thank you very much.
Mahalo.
I have next is Ellen and Kalanimoku.
Good morning, Sharon, and board members. My name is Ellen Snickiel. I'm a family practice physician, and I have worked in the Ahupua, taking care of community members out there, all the way down to probably Kawailoa for the last 15 years. Prior to that, I was at Kawailoa-Poamoho. I came here this morning not intending to testify, but I feel I would not be able to live with my conscience if I didn't, because shortly after I started working in Waihu, I became aware of the many chemical contaminants in the groundwater of the Ahupua, not just from the military, but from the plantations, some of which may actually interact with each other. And gradually, at a former legacy plantation clinic, of the epidemic cancer that had been happening in the area of all kinds for over 50 years. I also found out that physicians that were working in the area in the early 80s tried to prevail on the Department of Health to look into these epidemics and to acknowledge them and to warn the community and try to mitigate the problems with the water, and there was no cooperation from the Department of Health. More recently, when I asked Bruce Anderson 5 years ago or so about the depleted uranium that's being monitored for coming into the Kahuku, I can't pronounce it, Kalanimoku stream that runs down to Kayaka Bay by Teledyne Corporation, because that stream is connected to a tributary that runs through the radiation restricted area of the base. And he said, he shrugged and he said, probably not, because Dr. Anderson knew that the military doesn't care. So you guys need to collaborate with the Department of Health and realize that you can turn the tide, but it requires transparency and it requires putting our environmental and our public health first. Thank you.
I'm a third generation member of Kahuku, as well as an intern with Mākua Organic Farms. And I urge you to reject this environmental impact statement. At Mākua Organic Farms, we too have impact statements, but ours are not riddled with depleted uranium and unexploded ordnance and herbicide contamination and lies and broken promises. But our impact statements speak to abundance. Millions of dollars in revenue that is reinvested back into local community. Hundreds and thousands of pounds of produce grown without poison that feeds our people. Testimonies from at-risk youth that have found healing and restoration and the ability to pursue a higher education. Chair, that is what an impact statement is supposed to look like. One of regeneration and not desecration and damage control. We're asking you to assert your legal responsibility to protect our aina and our vai. As long as the US military occupies these lands illegally, you cannot truthfully say to the public trust that you are upholding your kuleana. At Puhawai and Lualua Valley, we can hear the bombing from Schofield echo over the Waianae mountain range while we plant food for our community. That is exactly what happens. This abundance is created when land is rightfully returned and royally respected in the ways that she should be. I ask you to do the right thing. And when we hear those bombs, the youth is learning and we're remembering. But most importantly, we are organizing here. So please don't make our job any harder than it already is. E ola ka aina, e ola nā kupuna, e ola.
Thank you very much.
Don't forget your phone, sir.
Next I have Kuahaina, and Lisa.
And legal?
And Nico, is Nico here? What about
Nico's here.
Oh, okay. And after you tell them that.
You first? I don't really know the script, so. It's not long.
Hello, my kapo, Iko, no why and I'm Maya. So I am Iko, I am here today. I am also from Waianae. I am here in opposition to the renewal of the military lease and the environmental impact statement. I have a great grandmother that lived on Lualua Ammunition Depot Road since she was born in 1907. Military presence has been there since she died when she was 98 years old. The aina there is desolate. Nothing grows there. It cannot grow. It's just totally barren because of the use, the ongoing use, and without having consideration that if it goes on any longer, the land is going to be poisoned already. There's no way of bringing it back to an equilibrium into a space where, okay, now our aina is healed. It's easier to heal now because of the irreversible impact. Exactly. The contamination, the land, the water resources, which continue to threaten most of our lives. And we need to prioritize the health and well-being of our people and our aina over continued military expansion. It's hard to be at desecrated burial grounds and having to share space all the time because there is such a large environment, such a large community of military spaces that we feel uncomfortable. We have to sit there and be uncomfortable all the time because now they're chasing our seals and removing our rocks and taking photos of our kupuna, and it's a desecrated grave, and it's fun and it's happy for them that they feel that this is the way America is. This is what military life is when we come and colonize and be over another person's land. But I urge to oppose and I urge you to deny the EIS. Mahalo.
Thank you.
Aloha, BLNR. My name is Kalanimoku Building, and I urge you to reject this EIS. I don't really got much to say. I kind of just came here just to show my support and my presence here. And that's it.
Thank you so much. Camilla? Tasman?
Aloha. Nala Iune. Maybe you remember me. I spent my birthday with you. Thank you for giving me the present I needed. I reject the EIS. Absolutely, we were here. So I appreciate you taking the time again. I've been reading over the EIS myself. because I think it's important to be informed. And I look at the summary, and there's very, very few places where it says that there will be significant adverse impact. Not one, like there's maybe 2 or 3 places in this entire summary where they acknowledge that there'll be significant impact. They're going to tell you, people will tell you that it's a matter of safety. You know, Pearl Harbor is a great example of how we had a target on our back. Didn't keep us safe. So there's, heard today, no matter how flat you make a pancake, there are going to be 2 sides. And I think it's important to know that this lack of respect for our land and the health of our people is ongoing and long-term in many other places. I spent half my life in Colorado and half here. I grew up near Rocky Flats, which is a nuclear testing place, where they told us it was safe. Almost all of my friends who lived in that area have seizures or cancer. I grew up playing in the river downstream from a coal mine, and most of my friends there have environmental impacts. And they too told us that it wasn't significant. So I want to remind you that significant to somebody might not be significant to somebody else. And we live, breathe, drink, stand in these waters, in these lands, and it is absolutely critical that you not only pay attention to what they say is significant, but what we know is significant for us and for our future generations. Mahalo.
Thank you very much.
Can't wait to get my 2nd birthday present. If it wasn't clear, I'm asking you to reject this EIS. Thank you.
Thank you. Tasman, and then after Tasman is Ren. Go ahead, Tasman.
Aloha mai kako. My name is Tasman Kikai. I am a current resident of Oahu, but I grew up in the diaspora. When I visited my grandparents on the island of Hawaii, I remember seeing plumes of smoke rising from Kohakuloa. I know that my brothers and sisters here on Oahu have similar stories. This earth, this aina, which Hawaiians and other indigenous peoples have always treasured, must never be taken for granted. The final EIS has a clear lack of data to support the U.S. Army's continued use of exploited Hawaiian land. Additionally, we're not consulted until after the EIS was submitted, showing the military does not care to center indigenous history and knowledge. The U.S. military colonized these islands, and if they cared at all about the people here, they would clean and return all lands to Hawaiians. Anything less is disingenuous pandering done to further U.S. imperialism. I would also like everyone to imagine what kind of future that we could build with an additional 6,000 acres of land. And I'm not talking about more hotels. Hawaiians are systematically displaced from these islands, myself included, and Hawaiians here are deprived of avenues for self-sufficiency. Hawaiian stewardship of the land is the only way to effectively continue the decolonization process.
Excuse me. I'm so sorry. Everybody's been really respectful, and I've got someone speaking.
All right, you know what? I am not putting up with this, all right? I'm gonna sit right here and I'm gonna read you your rights. You're being served with international order, warning order, and you, ma'am. Yeah? Oh, yeah, roll your eyes at me, ma'am. You are in violation of international law. You are being served with a warning order. This is a warning order. You understand? Pillaging, right? Yeah? Sure.
She does not represent
Violation. She's not Kanaka.
She's not Kanaka.
I'm a white national. It's not a nationality.
But you're embarrassing us.
I don't care. Occupation of
You're not
Hawaii Kingdom. You are being served and warning the indigenous revolution happening right now. Belligerent, look it up.
You're belligerent.
Burning.
You've been belligerent.
Burning.
Turn you over and Samuel.
Right? Burning.
One, two.
Burning.
Push the legs up.
Yup.
Legs under.
Burn! Yeah, put on camera. Put this all on camera. So ashamed. So heavy. Not your kingdom. Not your kingdom. Not your rules.
Ready to stand?
You have been served and held accountable. All of you.
Army folks while they're outside.
Got all your badge numbers. Everything. Right?
Stand up, stand up, stand up. Stand up. Okay, let's go. Power in. Power. Okay?
You're being ordered.
Power.
You should listen to those
Keep
people
order.
who've been very respectful.
It's not about. It's not your show. It's not your show.
Please capture that in relationship to everything else. She does not reflect those people that are here. Yeah. Okay, okay. I don't want. What do you think about all this? It's so unfortunate. because we also have people on YouTube and we have media people. I know that she does not reflect those of you who have been extremely patient, who have been respectful to one another, and have treated everybody with aloha. It is very disappointing for me when all of you have been here. You've shared your very heartfelt mana'o without the necessity to be disruptive. So again, I mahalo all of you who are here, who come with that spirit of aloha. And I'm sorry that that you were disrupted. I apologize that occurred to you. So please go ahead and proceed.
Mahalo nui loa. This earth, this aina, which Hawaiians and other indigenous people have always treasured, must never be taken for granted. The final EIS has a clear lack of data to support the Army's continued use of exploited Hawaiian lands. Additionally, kupuna were not consulted until after the EIS was submitted, showing the military does not care to center indigenous history and knowledge. The US military colonized these islands, and if they cared at all for the people here, they would clean and return all lands to Hawaiians. Anything less is disingenuous pandering done to further US imperialism. I would also like everyone to imagine what kind of future we could build with an additional 6,000 acres of land, and I'm not talking about more hotels. Hawaiians are systemically displaced from these islands, myself included, and Hawaiians here are deprived of avenues for self-sufficiency. Hawaiian stewardship of the land is the only way to effectively continue the decolonization process and to ensure that Hawaiians flourish here in perpetuity. I ask that you please reject the FEIS. Moving forward, let us steward the land so that our keiki and their keiki can thrive. Mahalo.
Thank you very much, Tasman, and appreciate you. You just flowed continuously. Thank you very much. I next have is Ren, and is it Taj? Taj? Taj. And then after that would be Emily and Manu. Please go ahead.
Hello, my name is Ren Patton. I live here in Honolulu, Hawaii, and I'm here with the Democratic Socialists of Oahu to urge you all to reject the EIS just for all the reasons everyone has been talking about today. It feels like the military has proven over and over and over again that they are not a good steward of this land, so it's time that you all continue to do the right thing and prevent them from doing further environmental harms. So please reject this EIS. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Aloha, my name is Tig. I'm not from Hawaii. My family, I'm diaspora from Ireland, where we were also under colonial rule for hundreds of years and we were forced off our land. I'm here as a PhD student. I study the history of democracy. And so what I want to talk to you today about is democracy, the institution that we are in the act of right now. It doesn't exist on paper. It is in the action. When I am done with my PhD, I will leave here, which is sad because this is a paradise for the people who are from here, and I hope you get to keep it. I hope. But we need to fight back. I also was in the military. It was my only way off the farm. The United States government has many times, the Pentagon has asked for less money, less bases, force reduction, and many times in American history there has been force reduction. When I served in the early 2000s, it was called a BRAX. It was the last one that has happened. Thousands of bases, thousands of people were relocated, dozens of bases were closed. In 2017, they asked for it again, but Congress denied it. Even since 2020, hundreds of millions of dollars that has been reserved for the Pentagon, they said, we don't want it. We're canceling the programs as wasteful. So I'm asking you now, if the US federal government is in a funding crisis, why not give them less to worry about? Let the land come back. We are talking about democracy here today, not the loudest voices. There are voices silent, not just the moneyed voices, but the people who can't speak or are afraid to speak. The masses, listen today. It's not about me as one person. I ask you to listen to the totality of the people of this island, of the people affected by this watershed. Of the people, by the people, for the people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I have Emily and Manu.
Aloha Chair Chang and board. My name is Emily Lehman. I'm testifying here today as a private citizen. I am not here on behalf of any organizations. I'm appreciative of everyone here who has gathered to share their thoughts on this EIS and the landing question. I acknowledge that the military has perpetuated harm throughout history here in Hawaii. I also acknowledge that as a transplant to Hawaii, I will never be able to fully understand and comprehend the depth of that harm and that feeling in this room. As an Army veteran with almost 2 decades of experience in my career in national security, what I would like to bring to this conversation is an affirmation and a reminder that there are serious threats to our safety here in Hawaii from ill-intentioned actors across the Indo-Pacific region. We all who were here in 2018 collectively experienced the trauma of the false missile alert. We hope that's never a real scenario here, right? But it was traumatic to us because we believed that it could be, because we all acknowledged that that could be a very real threat facing us. I dream of a peaceful future for my children and for everyone here on this land. The truth is that that's not the environment we currently live in. We want to work towards that, but that is not the reality that we exist in. The military needs access to training lands to be able to adequately train and prepare our service members, active duty, reserve, and Hawaii National Guard. They need to train so that they can protect us. They need to train so that they can remain safe when they go overseas and they do their duty of protecting us. I also care deeply about the health of the land. I care deeply about the people here, and I understand the connection there. I believe that we should seek to find a solution that honors all of those needs and all of those priorities in this complex environment. I believe that the military is genuinely seeking to find a solution that honors all those needs, as evidenced by their willingness to return most of the land covered by this EIS, and I encourage the board to recognize that and act in good faith so that a positive path forward can be charted together to honor and protect the people and the land and work towards a more peaceful and positive future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Aloha board. Do not accept this, please. So vote against it. That's what I am here saying. The majority of this land is held under executive order. These are Hawaiian trust lands, okay, which were never ceded to America. They are instead and continue to be illegally occupied trust lands. This is a picture of my great-grandfather, so I'm here to discuss Mākua specifically, though I totally feel the same way about many other lands. This is my great-great-grandfather's home in Mākua. You can see that is a halipu. At the beginning of the war, they came to him and they said, "Can we please use your aina because we need military readiness?" He said yes. After the war ended, he thought he was going to get his land back, and he didn't. Because then the military told him, "Sorry, it belongs to us now, and you can't have it because we need to continue to use it for military readiness." That is my experience with the American military. Also here, I have a picture of the ohana of the church that was in Mākua Valley also. These very ancient pictures. And in this, the reason I show this is because part of their target practice was to put a bullseye on top of that church and to bomb it and practice bombing. So they just destroyed the entire church. All of these people that you see in these pictures had to find new places to live. This is a reality of my ohana, my great-great-grandfather, Helenihi. If we carefully read the EIS, we can see the impact to this land is horrendous. If we, what is the purpose of this board? To bring some type of legitimacy, okay, to this so-called process. It's an old game with new players, and I know some of you, and I have aloha for many of you. Okay, this illusion of inclusion has to stop, and I really plead that you vote your conscience and not your position. It doesn't matter how many public hearings we have. I've been testifying against military expansion and pollution since I was in my 20s, and now I'm in my 60s. And never, ever has America followed through with their promises. Let me remind you of that fact. Where your kuleana is imperative as being on this board. Thank you very much. I just want to say
that there was really no intent to clean up, even though they said it. And I also want to talk about what my partner here said about that false missile alert. Do you feel like you were protected at that time when you were hiding under your bed? Do you feel like the American military's presence here would protect you? What it did was it will bring the missiles here and kill us. Mahalo.
We now have Candace, and then after Candace, Elizabeth.
Hello, my Mako, Chairman Chang, and members of the board. My name is Candace Fujikane, and I'm an English professor at the University of Hawaii. I teach courses on land struggles in Hawaii. I urge the board to reject the EIS. I am very happy to see that the staff submittal recommends unacceptance. Every single division in this department has found this EIS unacceptable. Every single division. Such unanimous, it's just unanimous. And this is a clear consensus on the part of the divisions. The Division of Forestry and Wildlife finds this EIS unacceptable. It uses outdated studies and does not consider wildfire modeling and management, which, as we have seen in Lahaina, is very important at this time. The Division of Aquatic Resources finds this EIF unacceptable. DAR requested stream aquatic surveys and no surveys were done. The State Historic Preservation Division finds the EIS unacceptable. They conclude that the archaeological surveys are woefully inadequate. The cultural impact assessment failed to consult key kupuna from various districts. And it does not contain enough information for any agency to conduct a kapa'akai analysis. The Commission on Water Resource Management finds this EIS unacceptable. Seaworm is concerned about the potential for groundwater degradation and reducing the amount of drinking water, and we know we're finding this drinking water crisis right now. One of the threats includes the residual unexploded ordnance. The Office of Conservation and Coastal Land finds the EIS unacceptable, and they state military, this is to me the most powerful argument. That is, quote, military use is neither consistent with the overall objective nor the allowable uses in the conservation district. That is the most powerful argument of all. So the BLNR must reject this EIS based on all of this evidence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Candace.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth. I've been a resident of Oahu for about 7 years. I'm not from here, I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. I don't have personal experience in this matter, but I stand in solidarity with the Kona and local people of Hawaii to oppose acceptance of this EIS. I believe there's not been an adequate study into environmental or cultural impacts. The military should not retain any of this land. It should be properly cleaned, restored, and returned to the people of Hawaii for culturally appropriate use.
Thank you very much. I now have, is it Kavena and Raquel?
I'm sorry. Aloha, my name is Kavena Ahupua. I'm testifying on behalf of Kawailoa-Poamoho Honolulu. We strongly urge you to reject and not accept this FEIS and reject any new lease or retention by the U.S. Army for Mākua, Kahuku, and Poamoho. The Army admits that unexploded ordnance and possible chemical contamination are possible here, but refuses to test soil or water. At Mākua, they promised to do phase 2 testing, and it hasn't been done, and no sampling has occurred at Poamoho. This is a casual failure that they continue to do to stick to their word and reminds us that they cannot be trusted. The fire danger is also downplayed significantly in the FEIS. As we saw at Schofield, the military seems to not be able to understand that if you use explosives on dry land, it catches fire. Most critically, the Army still has no cleanup plan. As we saw with Ko'olave, we know that even when there is a cleanup plan, they keep leaving their bombs in the ground. The Army has failed to meaningfully evaluate non-military alternatives, despite repeated calls from the community and DLNR staff. Despite this, the FEIS focuses solely on maintaining military control, even with some of the recommendations to give back only part of the land. decommission or transition to civilian culture or conservation use was not seriously explored, undermining the purpose of the environmental review and violating both legal and ethical standards for land stewardship. These lands are not bargaining chips. They must be returned in totality to the people. This FEIS is not a genuine assessment. It is a justification for the continued occupation and degradation of Hawaiian lands. Accepting it would signal a dangerous precedent and continue violating environmental, cultural protections, and other laws regarding public input. Unlike the U.S. military, you can trust an organization and a community made up of Oahu residents to uphold our kuleana to the land, and we expect you to maintain yours. It is also to be noted that people who worked on this EIS seem to be testifying in their personal capacity and not blocking themselves out for conflicts of interest. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Aloha mai kako. My name is Raquel Reynolds. I am Kanaka Oiwi. I'm residing in Wahiawa, born and raised in Oahu. I'm also the church administrator for St. Stephen's Episcopal Church. This morning I had a testimony prepared for today, but it was derailed after hearing about a teaching from Hui Aloha Aina mentioning that there were nuclear warheads buried on Kauai Island. So through the lack of time, I wasn't able to research that for myself, but it reminded me of when I was heavily involved with the Palestinian Coalition last year. It was very devastating. We witnessed the continued onslaught towards Palestinians on their own lands. Weapons that were backed by the US military were also tested in Hawaii. This reminds me of my years in Lelehua High School. Memories of often being in darkened classrooms due to power outages and feeling the buildings tremble because of the weapon testing nearby. While lands are being occupied and these military exercises, contaminations are not only harmful to the residents of Hawaii, but it contributes to the extinction of native species that cannot be found elsewhere, and it prohibits indigenous populations from being able to access their own resources. I want to state I urge the rejection of the U.S. Army's final EIS. I am deeply concerned about the Army's vague promises regarding land cleanup. They claim they will clean areas only if not retained. Yet there is no timeline, no enforcement, and no full plan in place. The lack of transparency and accountability is unacceptable. Furthermore, the Army has no commitment to return stolen lands to our people who are wrongfully being driven out of our own lands, nor have they offered any form of reputations.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Bruce, and then Barbara.
Aloha. My name is Barbara Altanis. I'm 76 years old and have spent most or almost my entire life standing up against U.S. militarization on indigenous lands, both on Turtle Island and here in Hawaii. I've witnessed firsthand how depleted uranium, white phosphorus, and other toxic chemicals have killed both the people, land, and all living beings, and the lack of cleanup of the U.S. military with no regard for the sacredness of life. The original peoples know and have known how to care for the land and life. We are all experiencing the extermination of so many of our relatives, the two-legged, the ones that fly, swim, crawl, the four-legged, all of life, because man has forgotten how to care for, not destroy, the very source of life that allows us to live. Our Mother Earth is crying. She's crying for us to listen and to care for her not to bomb her, and to care for one another. When I was in my 20s, Thomas Banyaka, a Hopi elder, shared with us as a prophecy that if we do not shift our consciousness to one of caring for, not destroying life, our children will not have a future. It was written in the Hopi petroglyphs, what we are experiencing today on our planet. It is up to us to stop this destruction and remember what it means to be human and who we are as human beings and why we are here. We are in a time when we are fighting for our humanity. The Hawaiian culture still remembers. The military culture does not. I was on Kahuku in 2016 and witnessed firsthand the annihilation of an island. I've lived in Hawaii for over 40 years and have seen how militarization has contributed to so much suffering of the land, the people, the water, air, and quality of life. Enough is enough. Wake up. Open your hearts. Feel the pain of Mother Earth and the people, as well as the deep love and caring the people hold for one another in the land. Be the human beings that we need to be, now more than ever, and stand up for what is Pono. Hold the Army accountable to the law, and reject this flawed FEIS.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, aloha, Chair and members of the board. My name is Ruth Kule and Kanaka Maoli, and I'm also a member of Hualoha Aina o Honolulu. Today, you are tasked with deciding if the EIS provided by the military meets all the standards and requirements. I'd like to offer another important consideration: the integrity of the information, specifically remediation, and likelihood that these plans will happen. The best predictor of the future is the past, and I have two examples. The first is the ongoing funding crisis. The immense and ever-increasing cost consistently outpaces funding allocated by the Defense Department of Congress. There's a massive growing gap between projected cleanup costs and actual funding the Defense Department requests and then receives. For fiscal year 2024, the Pentagon requested $1.5 billion for environmental restoration programs, $700 million less than the $2.2 billion Congress had appropriated for the previous year, demonstrating a consistent pattern of under-requesting funds for the task. Second is Kaho'olawe. Bombing ceased on Kaho'olawe 35 years ago in 1990, and the Navy spent $344 million to clear the unexploded ordnances. The reality is just that 75% of the ordnances were removed, and only from the surface. And since then, the relentless erosion has revealed even more shells and bombs. Because Kaho'olawe's surrounding waters weren't cleared, additional ordnance continue to wash up on the beaches. One reason why so many unexploded ordnances were left behind may be that they represent one of the biggest logistical hurdles. The primary tool for detection is a magnetometer, which functions as they call it a sophisticated metal detector. You can decide if you think it's sophisticated. The problem is that it detects all buried metal, not just unexploded ordnances. This can include harmless scrap metal and shrapnel and other debris. This leads to extraordinarily high false alarm rates. It's not uncommon for cleanup crews to dig 100 holes to find a single unexploded ordnance. I just want to ask if what right does the military have to ask to destroy our island into perpetuity? I'm asking you to be the group that stops us.
Thank you very much. Next I have is Raquel Araki and Marissa Clement. Arlie?
Aloha, Chair Chang, and members of the board. Aloha, mai kako. My name is Harley Broyles. I'm an associate attorney with Earth Justice, and I'm testifying today in support of the return to the Mākua of all state-owned lands of Mokupuni and Kona. The Army's preferred no-action alternative to end military use of the Aina and Mākua military reservation in the Kawailoa-Poamoho training area is long overdue. Although the military's acts of displacing Kanaka to discredit this Aina will never be forgotten, this is the first step towards healing for the people of Mākua and Poamoho. However, the Army's proposal to continue to use ceded lands, including leased lands at Kahuku training area, is unlawful under Hawaii law.
The military's historic use and proposed continued use of these lands is inconsistent with Hawaii's conservation district protections and this board's fiduciary duties under the public trust doctrine. The Army's retention of state-owned lands would require amending Hawaii Conservation District rules to allow military uses in the Conservation District. Hawaii's Conservation District rules were established to conserve, protect, and preserve our natural and cultural resources. And amending these rules to allow the military to manipulate, alter, and destroy these lands is antithetical to the purpose of conservation districts. We cannot allow the U.S. military to continue to operate as it does in spaces where malama aina is supposed to be a guarantee. The military's continued retention of state-owned lands also violates this board's public trust duty to use reasonable care and skill to protect, preserve, and manage public trust lands. We all have the kuleana to this aina, but this board has an obligation. So we ask this board to choose protection and preservation over desecration disguised as practice. We urge this board to fulfill its public trust obligations and reject the methods proposed as viable land retention options in the FEIS and return these lands to the people of Hawaii. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. The next two I have is Wayne Tanaka and Anna Watson.
I just wanted to note real quick, the Sarah Kapoi's testimony, Sarah Kapoi's testimony wasn't posted online, so I'm just a little concerned that maybe the state's email filters might be missing some input from, not just us, but from other folks. But Wayne Tanaka, Sarah Kapoi, we are in support of the staff recommendation to reject this FEIS. I'll just add to the conversation, there's, I think, implicit maybe expectation on the Army's side that because they prefer to relinquish some lands, maybe they would get a pass or subpar EIS. But as your staff pointed out, if they're really committed to relinquishing any lands, then they wouldn't have included full retention as part of the proposed action. And maybe more importantly, the refusal to provide detailed plans for remediation restoration really shows no commitment to return any lands in a manner that would be ready for beneficial use by the state in a timely manner or even in our own lifetimes. And beyond that, I think if you look at all the other recent examples of Army and military as a whole's failed commitment to protect and clean up our aina, whether it's the depleted uranium at Schofield, whether it's the lead dust that's blowing over schools and neighborhoods around the open air pool firing range, Radford High School collapsing into a toxic military waste dump for the last 10 years, and Water Commission mentioned Red Hill. All of these things I think really counsel as a matter of, because of these things, we really urge you as a matter of law and of our dignity to not accept an FEIS that flouts the hard work of your staff, your own guidance from the last hearing on the Poamoho FEIS, as well as the laws of Hawaii and our aina itself. So I respectfully urge you to reject this.
Thank you very much.
I'm from Kanuki. I'm also here representing Hawaiian, Honolulu. I'd like to strongly urge this board to reject the FEIS as per the recommendation. I was a part of the Kahuku town hall when the military was going around for the FEIS town halls. And in this Kahuku town hall, multiple residents reported finding barbed wire, UXOs, bullet casings, bullets, all over their paths. The dirt bike club, residents, school members, and at the same time, it was contrasted with the Army statements that they had done their cleanup. They had swept through, they had picked up everything they needed to, and obviously they did it. And all these people were coming out saying how much stuff they've been finding, how ridiculous and dangerous it was when if your child is going dirt biking back there and they hit a barbed wire fence or they skirt past a UXO and something happens. I mean, right, like, these are real dangers that these people have to deal with. They're constantly disrespected by the Army. Their time is not appreciated at all. They're pushed aside and they're treated as like second-hand people. When the fires broke out in Wahiwa, my friends lived in Mililani. They smelled the smoke. I was there when it was happening. Hundreds and hundreds of acres of Aina that had never been touched had been torched. Things we can't get back anymore. And they've been doing this for a long time. They don't deserve our trust in this EIS. They haven't deserved our trust in 1893. But it's ridiculous that they keep coming back here and asking for our consent when they just do not provide adequate information that they can even possibly come up to where they need to be. And until they provide information that's sufficient and they're able to show us that they actually can fulfill their word, it's disrespectful to allow this FES to go through.
Thank you very much, Emma. The next two I have is Leo Nahe Smith and Mahina.
Thank you.
Mai kapo, o leo nahe ko inoa no e maui mai au, moral mura manana. I'm here to express my strong opposition to the U.S. Army's proposed retention of leased lands across Oahu and Hawaiian, really, and to urge you to reject the FEIS. I moved from Maui to Oahu just last summer and always knew that there were military bases here. But it wasn't until I actually lived here did I realize just how pervasive it was. And I don't know about you all. I mean, I know everyone else feels this way, but I don't feel safer with them around. Just last week, Donald Trump decided to unjustly bomb Iran, and my entire ohana on Maui asked me to come home. And do you understand why this is? The US military and army being here puts a target on our backs for an unjust war that we never wanted to be a part of. Just last summer on Maui, we were protesting the US Space Force's proposed construction of 7 telescopes on Haleakala. Being one of the only islands without a military base, at least during my lifetime or presence, many people talked about how scared they were if the US military was there. And do you blame them? The bombing of Koho'olawe just off of our shores was not long ago, and as someone who grew up going there to Malama Aina, it is heart-wrenching that our access is confined to a narrow path around the island. I worked on a farm on the west side in Waianae, and during my first week, as I was harvesting, I remember feeling this rumbling beneath my feet. And so casually, another mahiai told me that that's the military practicing on the other side of that mauna. This is not normal and should never be normalized. This aina should have never been given to the army in the first place, but what's done is done. What's important now is that you don't let them continue. They have not been good stewards of this aina, and nothing in this FEIS suggests that that will change. Do what is Kona and reject the Army's EIS. Mahalo.
Thank you very much.
Aloha mai kako. O wā o mahina ka anohika me he umikumakahi o umakahiki. Anoha a Moku. I am proud to be a lineal descendant of Kahuku. My kupuna are buried in this Ahupua. This land is very special to me and my family. I see and hear the military doing things that hurt our aina. We hear loud gunshots, see low-flying planes, and sometimes even see people jumping out of them during school. It's scary. The army is not taking care of our land. They leave opala behind. They hurt our sacred sites or endangered species, and even the vice sources we need to survive. That is not pono. My kupuna would frown at what is happening, and it makes my pu'uwai hurt too. I want to grow up in a place where our aina is protected and respected. Please reject the FEIS. Please let the land rest. Please let our kupuna rest. I promise to protect this aina just like my mom and my dad, my aunties and uncles in this room, and my kupuna before me. I will not stop speaking out. Mahalo for listening to me. I speak today because I love this aina with all my heart. Mahalo.
That was excellent. Thank you very much. Well done. I have Moana and Winona. Hard after you follow.
Told myself I wasn't gonna get emotional, and then that happened.
To the members of the Board of Land and Natural Resources, she's back! Aloha nui kako o Winona Lynn Masaniai o Waipahuku Homeholau. As a kanaka who has grown up on the west side of Oahu with my ohana, who cultivated a solid relationship with Kaiulula there, and was privileged enough to experience and build pilina with the wahi that is Mākua Valley, I urge you all to once again reject the FEIS. The continued desecration of these different wahi, specifically in Kahuku, Kawailoa-Poamoho, and Mākua Valley, needs to stop now. The U.S. military has been utilizing and destroying these lands for far too long with no remorse for how these wahi feel or for how our people feel. There is literally no empathy. There is a lack of accountability on the military's end for past damages that were done and for their apparent plans for remediation. There is also a lack of information of the military's actions on these wahi and on their impact analysis. The U.S. military has proven time and time again that they are incapable of being stewards of these wahi. These wahi cannot speak for themselves, which is why we, as Kapoleo Hawaii, as the only people who are actually capable and able to malama because of the generational knowledge that was passed down to us, must speak out for them. As members of this board, it is your duty, your kuleana, to protect and serve aina, to malama this aina. More than 6,000 acres of aina rest in this decision, so please make the right one. So from Palestine to Hawaii, aina back and army out.
Okay, aloha mai kako. My name is Moana Masaniai. We're sisters. And I am the Executive Director of Hawaii Peace and Justice. I'm here to urge you to reject the Army's FEIS for Oahu. Mahalo for putting the FEIS on your agenda. I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit worried this was gonna happen behind closed doors, but this moment matters. Our AINA deserves time, transparency, and real testimony, so please keep this process pono moving forward. Now, the FEIS, you've heard it all from us today or in testimony already submitted. There's no way around it. This document is inadequate and dangerous. Common pilikia include lack of current baseline data, no clear analysis or status of endangered and native species, and no meaningful consultation with cultural knowledge keepers. And once again, the Army ignored recommendations from your own BLNR staff. This brings me to two things, kuleana and kulana. Kulana is your position, your title, but you don't get to keep that title if you don't carry your kuleana. The Army wants the kulana, the title, the access, and the authority, but they have not done their kuleana of being pono stewards of the AINA and did not do the work required for this FEIS. Some of you might think our mo'olelo and emotion we bring to testify isn't relevant to whether you accept or reject this document. E kalamai, but I disagree. There is a social and emotional weight of your decision. I know the Army's recommendation is to give back Mākua, but we can't assume what they'll actually do. About Mākua, I wanted to share about our dad, Joe Tumua Saniai. Sorry, dang it. He grew up out in Waianae and remembers hearing bombs as a kid. How can you not feel forgotten when they're bombing your backyard? He gave him good heart, but the system failed him, and that led him to making some bad decisions. When I think of Mākua, I think of my dad. Both were abandoned and abused by the system, which includes the military. But I never gave up on him, and we haven't given up on Mākua. Your decisions will ripple throughout the west side. Please let that community heal. I want to be clear. We want all our AINA back, including Poamoho and Kahuku. So again, I urge you to reject the FEIS. Mahalo.
Thank you very much, kiddos. Good job. I have another Masania.
Yes, Tia.
Tia.
She coming.
She's
on her way.
Bryce and Kainoa. Bryce and Kainoa, and then we'll take Tia.
Aloha mai kako. My name is Bryce Takanaka. I'm from Evavi, Director of Hawaii Peace and Justice. I'm here because I believe in a free, unshackled Hawaii. I'm speaking today in strong opposition against the Army's final environmental impact statement for continued use of Kahuku, Poamoho, and Mākua. Your own Land Division staff and State Historic Preservation Division found that the FEIS fails to meet legal standards and must be rejected. This is more than a procedural injustice. It reflects an ongoing pattern of structural violence, scientific racism, and the caucasity of the Aina and Kanaka. This FEIS must be rejected because there is no baseline data. BLNR staff confirmed that key environmental and cultural data are missing. Major areas were also unsurveyed, possibly containing Ivikupuna, Vahipana, and unrecorded cultural sites. Most of all, the FEIS fails to acknowledge the long-term impacts and the fundamental truth. These are stolen lands. While documenting this harm is a step forward in reparations, there are no amounts of reports, charts, and empty words that will return to what has been taken and destroyed. The DoD continues to operate under a framework that ignores its moral and legal obligations to the Kaia'ulu of Hawaii. Promises of cleanup, cultural sensitivity, and public access have been repeatedly avoided and broken. Accepting this FEIS would continue a legacy of generational trauma and transnational genocide. In alignment with your own staff's recommendations, I urge you to reject the Army's FEIS. Let these leases that sanction U.S. imperialism expire, so we can start immediate environmental remediation, cultural restoration, let Kanaka and the Lahui lead us into the Hawaii's future. So uphold your kuleana and your own staff's recommendations to reject the FEIS. Mahalo.
Thank you very much, Bruce. Kaino?
Aloha mai kako, my name is Kaino Azama, and I'd like to first address that these are unlawful processes conducted under an illegal military occupation of the Hawaiian Kingdom, not the lawful authority to mediate the harms caused by the United States, myself included. Under duress, I'm requesting the BLNR to reject the FEIS. Without echoing the shared concerns raised by previous testifiers, I bring another issue to the Board of Land and Natural Resources. For your deliberation, I do not consent to the BLNR or the state of Hawaii in being the body or having agency in determining the future of Hawaii with the United States military. The people in opposition need to be included in determining the future and not subject to decisions of government officials who do not represent my, and I'm sure many, if not all of the people who have spoken in opposition today, as negotiating points for better deals and more reciprocity with the United States Army. That is for us as the people in opposition to determine. Any processes that move this effort forward need to include us at the table and not just be left to executive sessions or any sort of government official meetings. We need to include the opposition in these negotiations. And I, as always, acknowledge too, we must return to the legal authority. The future of our islands and the future of the geopolitics of this world has really pushed us to question beyond just jurisdictions, but as individuals, where does Hawaii fall in all of this? And do we have to fall down the trajectory, and if not change the trajectory of the planet? And I think it can go back to as Pilahi Paki and some of her previous sayings in the prophecies that return to aloha, and really to question what that means for us, what that means for the future governance of these islands, and how we can really shape this future. And I don't think it's in collaboration, particularly with the direction that this is going. I'm also opposed to any land retention plans in respect to trying to swap some lands for Mākua. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. The last person I have on this list is Tina Marie.
Tia Marie.
Tia Marie. Tia Marie.
Yeah, she should be right outside.
Did I not call any of your names?
I think you called me. I was outside. Raquel Rocky.
Oh, you're right. Okay. So what did you come on? Please come on.
Tia might be in a media press conference
Oh,
right
okay.
now, right outside, so sorry.
Oh, you also signed up to testify?
I'm later on the list.
Okay.
I'm on the next page.
That's okay, I can do it.
That's okay. Tia Marie's coming in.
That's okay, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Aloha mai kākou. My name is Raquel Rocky, and I would like to echo all of the statements that were made today. They are true and sound. I'm a resident of Hawaiian, born and raised in Makaha, and I can speak as of yesterday and the day before and all the days before that, there is continuous bombing that is happening in Schofield, and no one is protecting us from it. They are not protecting the island from being bombed because they're the ones who are constantly bombing. It is happening all day long. I can hear it, I can feel it, especially once the sun has gone down and it's become quiet, and it haunts my dreams. And it's not okay, and it's terroristic threatening. And we all know that it's happening. and we're paid to look the other way. And it's not pono. So I'm just here to stand with aloha aina. Mahalo.
Tia? Aloha e. Aloha e. Aloha e. My name is Tia Marie Namahana Masaniai Estrera. I am a Kanaka Iwi and Mo'opuna of Ko Hawaii Pai'aina, and I'm here to put this board on legal and public notice. If you approve this FEIS, you're violating your fiduciary duty, your constitutional obligation, and your responsibility under the public trust doctrine. You are here to protect the Aina and people of Hawaii, not to advance the U.S. Army's mission of war readiness and national security. Whose nation do you serve? Because we hold the true subject matter jurisdiction. Our customary and traditional rights are protected under law and cannot be brushed aside for American military convenience. As stated in Andrew Alling's written expert testimony, the Army's own data shows that unexploded ordnance detection in Hawaii is only 50% effective because of our volcanic soils and rugged terrain. They know that they cannot clean up their mess, and yet they want to continue live fire training. That's negligent and unacceptable. They are still finding UXOs in Waikoloa, Waimanalo, and Waianae. The Army has not restored past damage, and you all have no legal or moral basis to approve more. Let's be clear. These people, they leave, and we stay. It's our VI, our EV, our Aina that's at risk. We carry the burden, and we are expected to pay the price. And now, even the Army is facing their own destruction coming back to harm them, like we all saw with Red Hill. And still, we like clean water for you guys too, for your guys Mo'opuna too. We are demanding our Vai be restored for the benefit of all. It is your legal and moral duty to protect Hawaii, not enable her death. Reject this FEIS as a strategical step towards demilitarizing and deoccupying Ko Hawaii Pai'aina. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Next I have is Leah Hill and Liko Martin.
I may, Chairman?
Yes, you may. After Uncle Liko, I have Leah, then I have Lila, and then Leimana, Malie, Keone, Eddie, and Kaukaohu. Okay, all right. You go ahead first. And I know it's going to be hard, so you have 2 minutes. Okay.
My name is Liko Martin, for the record. Board members, I want to follow up with some written comments with respect to the issues that I brought up at the last conference concerning the leases with Pahu. And at that time, I remember I opened up with the remarks of the certification, the issues of certification covered for the functions of historic preservation by the state of Hawaii and U.S. now German as this under Title 16. So I'm offering some comments and a direction with respect to that, with the issue of and tying it in together and recognizing in this too the recommendations and support the recommendations of the staff on this particular issue. And I've taken the liberty to bring in the issues of that I mentioned, certification, issues with the apology resolution, and the issues with the military in Hawaii. And I think that you would find my dissertation there following experiences that I have had with historic preservation. I'm not just citing codes and laws just out of the blue because they sound good. They actually have worked. And I hope, and basically for the record, I'm requesting of you, Chairman, for to seek the discretion of the Secretary of Interior to determine under Title 16 whether or not major inconsistencies exist within the state system. Okay? And I believe that if we can get to that, putting things on the table, that how we proceed into the future with respect to the definitions by which we are defining ourselves and the laws that we are able to reference, that we would be in a better position to do a better job.
Thank you.
Okay? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being here. So, Leila, and then after Leila and Lila.
Hey there, my name is Leah Hill. I'm a resident of Hawaii as of a few months ago, just getting involved with the community. Have a background in environmental law, in indigenous policy. So I'm just presenting an idea that another community member had presented to me, didn't have time to say further. So I suggested that, in future, maybe each Ahupua had like a single individual member who would be like their representative to speak on behalf of their community. And ideally with as much time as the military has to speak, given that they have the history with the INA. They have experience and the knowledge that comes with living here to have life and being connected. This would be like on top of everybody else's 2 minutes for testimony. It's just an idea that they would record. That's all.
Thank you so much for the contribution. Is it Lila? Leila? Lila? Leila. Leila, please come up, Leila. And then Malie.
Aloha Chairman Board, aloha Chairman Don, sorry, and BLNR. My name is Layla Marie Gallardo. I'm from Los Angeles, California. I'm third and fourth generation Mexican American, very proudly so. And with my background and with where I'm from, I have seen the causes of the US military, both destructive, both good. I've seen the influences of US imperialism, both in my home and here in Hawaii, and I strongly urge you, Board, to reject this FEIS, because it is only one step in a very, very long process to gain Hawaiian sovereignty, which is a very needed thing. As an Indigenous person who has been removed from not only my culture, but from my people and from my land, it is a disheartening thing to wake up every single morning and to not know who I am. Every day I get to be in Hawaii and I get to work with Hawaii Peace and Justice. I get to see what it is to be an Indigenous person, alive, free, and sovereign. And that is all I care for in this world. However, to give you facts, this FEIS must be rejected because there is no baseline data, which I know you've heard repeatedly all day today. Your own staff has confirmed that the key environmental and cultural data is missing. Without it, neither the board nor the public can understand its full impacts, and it puts the ecosystem, species, sacred sites, and watersheds at risk. There's an incomplete cultural review. The Army's cultural impact assessment ignored significant mo'olelo, and these stories are connected to the affected lands and deserve inclusion. The inclusion of cultural access and just land back in total is something you can never put a price tag on. You can never go through a lease proposal process or whatever. Kanaka need their lands back, and they need that. They need it back now, and they need it healthy now.
Thank you very much. Malia?
Aloha members of the board. My name is Malia and I'm a member of Honolulu. I'm here to urge you to please do your job and reject the Army's final environmental impact statement and to reject continued military use of lands, of all Hawaiian lands, but specifically for Te Kahuku, Kawailoa-Poamoho, and Mākua. This FEIS is incomplete and misleading. It ignores major concerns
It minimizes real harms, and it fails to meet its own standards. The BLNR has both a legal and a legal obligation and a moral duty to reject this document. So you are obligated to stand against the further destruction of our homeland. So please do your job and reject this document. It is a deeply flawed attempt to greenlight ongoing destruction. It is evasive and it is incomplete despite being thousands of pages long. The Army has provided no assurance of environmental protection, no credible accountability, and no respect for the cultural and political status of this Aina. Hawaiians, we are illegally occupied.
Yeah.
So we see time and time again that our land and our most secret wahi, including the lands referenced in this very document, is violently appropriated by powerful foreign entities, whether that's money-hungry developers or money-hungry, warmongering developers like the United States military. All they do is seek to exploit Hawaiians, displace us from our land and from our divine, and turn our land that they stole into a cash grab, into a gondola, a resort, or a military training ground for them to just train for the same or worse to another native population worldwide. I can't allow this to happen to my home. Please do your job. Please reject that EIS.
Thank you very much, Nicole. We have Kaimana, Keone, and then after that is Eddie and Ahupua.
Aloha, board members. Thank you for the opportunity for Moku to come up and give a testimony. My name is Leimana Damate. I'm the Luna Alakai for the Hawaii State Moku, and I stand on my testimony that has been submitted to you in writing. We're asking that the land board not accept the existing final documents and FEIS. I have outlined in our testimony exactly why we support the land division submittal and have looked into every single one of these. I wanted to tell you something that has come up since the Kawailoa meeting, and that is, even though we have testified to not accept the final documentation, and for valid reasons, we also are not closing the door to working with the military in the future to bring the voices of our people forward. Just listening to the speaker before me, it was heartbreaking, because these are our young ones, these are our youngsters, these are the ones that are going to carry on. And for them to face that kind of heartbreak, the only way out I can see on this is that we have to make a concentrated effort to try and mitigate the issues that are now before all of us. I just wanted to say that we stand strongly on our written testimony of asking the board to not accept this final documentation because it is fundamentally flawed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Keone.
Aloha mai.
Aloha.
Ko Keone Ko'inoa, no mai ma na lumaya. I'm here to ask the board to reject the Army's FEIS as incomplete and inadequate. I know I'm in the right place today because all of my apana is outside. How wonderful would it be if instead of inside today, you're already on our Aina remediating the soil, planning for housing and food security. Enough of this, we need to get to work. I would ask all of you to think about your ohana, your kupuna, your grandparents, your parents and your children. What is your love for them, your aloha? What is your kuleana to make sure that they are healthy and that they are safe? Why should we treat our kupuna aina any differently? Our aina feeds us, it houses us, and it keeps us safe. As Kanaka, we understand our genealogical connection and relation to Aina, from the Kumolipo to all of us in this room on both sides of the table. Our kupuna Aina on these occupied lands have been sick for a very long time and they need us to come home. We all have a deep kuleana to caretake, including you all. We do not consent to 1 acre of land being utilized for military training for operations. Moving forward, we do not consent to constant desecration to feed America's never-ending thirst for violent imperial expansion, and we do not consent to IDF soldiers who are training to commit genocide on our sacred Aina Kona, and we reject any EIS that prioritizes the military goals of an occupational government that is willing to sacrifice her people on behalf of a nation an ocean away. Think about the Hawaii that you want to leave for your keiki and ohana when you make your decision today. We must think generationally, dig into your now, and stand with us and do the right thing. For we love our Aina Kupuna, and we would die to protect her.
Yeah.
Will the military do the same for you, or would they sacrifice us all? What is your kuleana in this moment? Please stand with us.
Thank you very much. I now have Kaukaohu, and after Kaukaohu, Natasha, Laulani, and Danny.
Natasha, I'll let her speak first.
Okay. All right.
Hi, my name is Natasha. I'm visiting from California. I'm a student at Stanford University, and I am just here for a short amount of time, but I have been following, and many of the people in my community in the Bay Area really support this movement right here. Just recently, I think the board's decision today actually would go alongside what is happening nationally in the country. Very recently, I think something like 47,000 acres, so earlier in June of this year, June 5th, 47,000 acres were returned to your tribes by the state of California. And so I guess what I wanted to share as a perspective was that your move and like the decision you make here today is actually something that a lot of people care about around the country and around the world, and there is a kind of broader precedent for kind of rejecting the FEIS today. I also wanted to share, like, just from my perspective, the importance of kind of affirming international law right now and continuing to abide by these laws about human rights and protection that many people here have already referenced. After like a couple of years of pretty violent betrayal of those norms, what you guys choose to do could actually really help a lot of people feel like maybe there is justice, maybe there is fairness, maybe we do have institutions that can work towards the people's benefit. So I just wanted to come today to share an alternative perspective and kind of show the broadness of people's concern about what you choose to do.
Thank you very much. Mahalo for sharing your day with us.
Aloha mai kako, kako, kalani wahilani no puya mayau. E ku'u makua kane vela hilani wahilani no laila e ku'u makua hine pikake wahilani. My name is Kapo'ohu Wailani. I hail from Puya. That's the original name for Waianae Valley. My dad is Vela Hilani. My mom is Pikake. I'm here, first of all, to stand in opposition and to compel this board to do what is pono, to reject this EIS. And I have to talk about it, and especially all my fellow Alohaina and comrades that came up to testify in opposition. As a Kanako Iwi, we look at Aina as a kupuna. There's no disconnection. However, throughout 134 years of being legally occupied, and yes, we are. So I compel this board,
to do the right thing. January 16, 1893, the presence of the U.S. military complex has never left our country. They've been here ever since they came uninvited. As Kanako Iwi, we follow protocols. We ask. Anybody want to ask the Aina, Poamoho, Kohakuloa, Mākua, Halemano? Anybody want to ask the Aina? Can we come and bomb and desecrate the Aina? Anybody? You guys didn't ask that?
No, look to us.
Ikalamayo. Aina to us is a connection that will never be broken. So I'm here to ask to do what is right. And I'm glad that you guys didn't stand up a couple months ago. I ask you guys to stand up again. Right? I know you from Honolulu Body Surfing Club, brother. You know, you koko too. You koko. Your Aina, ho'okano get big Aina kahalu liuman. What would happen if something like this was to happen? Yeah. Ahiki ke aloha Aina ho'keloa until the last aloha Aina. And there's a oli that I want to say before I leave. And this oli is a prophetic oli. Those from the top going fall. Those from the bottom will rise up. And those outside listening with me. E wano duna e piano lalo e huyana moku e kuana kapaya. E wano duna e piano lalo e huyana moku e kuana kapaya. E wano duna e piano lalo e huyana moku e kuana kapaya. Aloha.
Aloha Aina.
Oh, that was me. That was Laulani and Darren. Did I miss your name?
Eddie, yeah, okay. Actually, could we have Darren and Eddie go and then can I speak? Okay.
Do I use the mic or no?
Just what's right in front of you. You're good.
Okay.
I don't think you are.
Oh, hey, I'm here today to disclose my disapproval for the Army's EIS statement. This impact statement is riddled with filler words, double negatives, intentionally misleading and deceptive diction, along with other language used to justify these highly invasive and wildly unpopular positionings. 1,000 empty pages, communicative of nothing significant, not understood by the people who are the most affected by these positions. Hosting this hearing on a workers' weekday during scheduled hours, working hours, it shows very clearly a lack of true consideration for the voices of the public. This impact statement lacks required information, baselining data is absent, it fails chapter 343. The intention behind the Army's FIES statement is conspicuous. Continued misuse of Hawaii's land to facilitate military operations, continuation demonstrations, demonstrates blatant disregard for the well-being of the people of Hawaii. If you saw me as an equal, would you truly consider the information stated?
Thank you very much. Darren?
Aloha. I guess I'd just like to speak as a lifelong resident of Oahu and someone from Kaneohe. I would urge you to reject the FEIS. It is something that we, as people who live here, will have to live with. So I would hope that you consider that. And also, I know there were comments before about how a bunch of these issues that we speak on are not, quote unquote, not relevant. I think I would counter that because if you know the history of Hawaii and the history of the world in relation to the US, a lot of this is connected. It brings us out to all of these things. And so, yes, I hope that you would understand and properly represent us and reject this FEIS.
Thank you very much. Alden?
Aloha board members, it's so good to see you again. mean that truly. I want to say that I want to say thank you to you on behalf, as representative of your staff, because I have to say that was the best staff submittal I've ever read. It really was. It was very high quality with facts and truth and a good analysis, and I'm just really, really, really moved by the quality of work that was done by the DLNR staff. So I want to say mahalo, and I'm not even going to try to convince you to reject the EIS, because I know, first of all, I have faith that you will. I have faith that you will listen to your staff, not to me, but to the staff, because they know what they're talking about. And I don't think there's anything I can say that they haven't already said in a way that should compel this board to do the right thing and reject the EIS. And I also want to thank the Army, because I think that one thing in that is that they did not try to manufacture information, which I have seen in the past, so there was a lack of information that is important, but that's real. And I really want to thank them for being real, because that's where we're at. And from this place, we can go forward. We can all go forward together. And the fact that we're at this place allows me and many others to focus on the things that are really important, like taking care of people and taking care of our lahui and being kanaka in a real way. So mahalo.
Thank you very much. This is the last.
Sure.
Your phone. Oh,
Your phone.
Oh! Okay, so this is the last testimony, public testimony we'll take.
Yes, ma'am.
Angela?
Angela Melody, I'm testifying on behalf of CARES Missions Comments. So, the EIS and the military land use in Hawaiian history, the Chinese people, Chinese ancestors of mine, came to Hawaii because of the Europeans that had forced labor markets in Asian American countries. The Chinese, the Filipino, the Japanese, the Portuguese had forced labor market contracts with the Europeans. So the Chinese people had to come to Hawaii to work the sugarcane plantations. So, it's no different in other countries with Native Americans, Spain, and Portugal. The race of supremacy will always dominate the indigenous population. So, it's just history on repeat. And so when we're talking about returning the Aina to its original purpose, cleaning up the environment, environmental restoration, it goes beyond just reciting science. So in my generation, we can be seen as like ignorant or unaware, but my generation wants a world without war. And I'm a millennial. I like going to movies and hanging out with my friends. And I was shocked to learn that my favorite K-pop stars, as teenagers, were drafted into the war by Korea. So it's generations of war and corporate markets has gone on, and there needs to be actionable plans for returning the Aina back to the Kanaka Maoris. So Department of Hawaiian Homeland has $600 million, which expires 2026, with $129 million remaining. And the fund is supposed to be for supporting infrastructure for building Hawaiian homes, funding for assessments for water, water supply, electrical, sewer infrastructure to sustain development. So there must be a way to work with DLNR for the dollar lease lands to demilitarize and support Hawaiian homes. And the state and the Honolulu County have declared sustainable food systems as a common goal. Regenerative farming, people of Hawaii need fresh fruits and veggies. DLNR has parcels of land for lease for $1. Instead of produce coming in by boats, we can lessen dependence on imported foods and unsustainable methods and strategies of sourcing food supply, like the Hawaiians are talking about. Long distance transportation of food contributes to significant carbon footprints, harming Hawaii sustainably goes. So, there has to be plans.
Thank you very much, Angela.
Thank you.
What is her position? Are you
to comment?
You're just comment?
Okay. Thank you very much. So That is the last person that is signed up that's in the Kalanimoku Building. We're going to take a lunch break and we're going to come back at 1 o'clock, and then I'm going to resume testimony for those on Zoom. So again, thank you everybody for being here. We're going to take a 25-minute break. We will come back at 1 o'clock. Again, my hope is that we're going to complete all public comments by 3 o'clock. So we are going to be in recess. Thank you. Excuse me, did you want to provide a comment? Okay, I'm so sorry. Okay. Thank you, everybody.